within pastimes of Ramachandra. Again, Queen Kunti says this about Krishna. He is the embodiment of contradictions. That's okay. Okay, good. Very good. So rather than going through the contradictory things within Krishna's pastimes, there are events in Lord Ramachandra's pastimes where mundane people want to find fault or find some discrepancy. You know how it is. Or sincere people have doubts, how could Ram have Sita enter fire? How could Ram have made a mistake and went after a golden deer? And why did Ram banish Sita, pregnant, to the ashram of Valmiki? And there are things that worldly people don't understand. In part, due to not understanding the science of rasa, and in fact, not having faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So one of those examples is in this section that we'll be discussing this evening. In the morning session, we ended with Ram agreeing, reconciling with Sita and Lakshman that they could come with him. He managed to secure, after much opposition, the blessing, the permission of his mother to go to the forest. And they began giving in charity everything that they had, so they were possessionless. So now this session begins with their going to visit for one final time Dasarath and that whole scene. Then Dasarath has the chariot prepared to get ready, and the chariot is moving. The chariot, Dasarath is behind, calling, "Stop!" And Ram says to Sumantra, "Don't stop." So here he is, caught between a rock and a hard place, in a very difficult position. Then Ram says, when you return back to Ayodhya, you can tell Dasarath, I didn't hear you. And so the fault finders say, aha! Truthful, Ram isn't truthful after all. He's advising Sumantra to tell a lie. So, that's a nice topic. We'll just touch on it a bit. You can imagine the Sri Vaishnava Acharyas have written on it extensively because they hold Ram and Ram's Leela and Ram's worship in a special position as Gaudiyas hold Krishna, particularly Radha Krishna. Even within the pastimes of Ramanujacharya, there was one, at least one, perhaps more, but one prominent example where Kuresha donned a saffron dhoti and went to the court of King Kulotunga, presenting himself as if he was Ramanujacharya when he wasn't. Kulotunga had never seen Ramanujacharya, didn't have a photograph, didn't have a JPG digital image of Ramanujacharya. You could match him up, check his fingerprints. But he heard about him and he knew that he was renunciant, so Kuresha, being concerned, knowing the nature of Kulotunga, what his intention was likely to be, to kill him. So he went in his place to protect Ramanujacharya. Now, is Ramanujacharya guilty of telling a lie, falsifying? And so what's the standard? Two Gaudiya examples, prominent examples, and then Prabhupada comments on one of them, where Sanatana Goswami was put in prison. He was the Prime Minister of Nawab Hussain Shah, and he didn't want to do that anymore, and Nawab had him arrested. Details, Rupa Goswami had the treasury divided in a certain way, told Sanatana Goswami where his portion is for emergency purposes. So three things. Sanatana bribed the jailkeeper. He cheated, used Prabhupada's word in the purport, he cheated the jailkeeper by saying, "My dear jailkeeper, you are a learned scholar in the Quran." Yes, I'm a learned scholar in the Quran. Knowing very well that persons of the position of a jailkeeper aren't learned scholars in anything. But being honored in that way, he's not going to say, no, I'm not a learned scholar. But he, using flattery to purposefully, intentionally cheat him. And then he offered 6,000 gold coins. You free me. And knowing the Quran, you know if you listen to this, if you liberate somebody, then you go to heaven. So liberate me, you go to heaven, and here's 6,000 gold coins. The jailkeeper said, no. The king, if he finds out that I did this, I'm dead. He said, you can tell a lie. You can tell the king if he asks, or when he asks, that Sanatana said he had to go past stool. He went to the river, and with his chains on, he jumped in the river. And I looked for him, couldn't find him, he must have drowned. You can tell him that. And here's 7,000 gold coins. And the jailkeeper looked at the 7,000 gold coins and said, it's a deal. Now, that's falsification. And Sati people aren't supposed to do such things. Abiding by righteousness and all this language that we're hearing again and again in Ramayana. A third example is Raghunath Das Goswami. He was wanting, like anything, to be with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Different things happened. They put him under house arrest, basically. Many guards around the clock, people making sure he didn't do anything at any time. And there was a very elevated devotee, a guru, Yadunandana Acharya, very elevated devotee, great devotee for Chaitanya, who Raghunath Das cheated. There was a circumstance where the pujari hadn't shown up for his service. It was really late at night and the morning hour was soon going to come and the pujari was missing and Yadunanda Acharya was his service. And so Raghunath said, no, you go take rest. I'll go find the pujari and have him go do his service. Okay, I'll go take rest. And he went to take rest and Raghunath Das took off because there wasn't anybody watching him because of the hour and Yadunanda Acharya wasn't watching him and the deity didn't get the service the deity was supposed to get. He lied to Yadunanda Acharya and he went and joined Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Well, where's the righteousness in that behavior? So they're not identical, there's not 100% symmetry in all of these things, but the comment that Prabhupada makes is in purport that I couldn't find the exact language, but for the higher cause. Now that's a little risky. I've got a higher cause. I can lie and cheat and deceive people, no problem. I got a higher cause. Just ask me, I'll tell you what the higher cause is. Getting the association of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, certainly that's the higher cause. Protecting the life of Ramanujacharya, that's a higher cause. In this case, the explanation given is that Lord Ram knew what his mission was, and it would prolong the pain of his father if he were to delay and drag it on, because we're going to hear his father says, okay, you can go, but stay one more day. And he says, I'm leaving today. There's a disobedience to that instruction, but his reason is it will just cause more pain and more grief. And so, as service to you, having the power of discrimination to determine what's service to his father, he doesn't agree to spend another day, and for the same reason, he wants the chariot to move. In that sense, a higher cause. Now, easily somebody can say, humbug, higher cause. It's a lie. That just don't whitewash it. It's Lord Ram is telling the chariot driver to lie. Sumandra, tell a lie. So one can argue like that.
And it's not just because we're friendly to Ram, we make excuses, but he had a higher purpose. He has a higher purpose. One could make the additional argument, just like Krishna, when Krishna told Yudhisthira to say, Ashvatthama is dead, that's
Dharma. When the Supreme Dharmam hi sakshat bhagavat pranitam, in other words, there's a worldly sense of telling the truth. And then there's a transcendental sense when Krishna says, say, Ashvatthama is dead, go ahead. That's Dharma. That's the standard. And Krishna had a purpose. His purpose, one of his purposes was for us to understand whatever Krishna says, that's what Dharma. That was Krishna's purpose. Because a zillion other things could have been done to accomplish his purpose. But for Drona to hear Ashvatthama is dead, he dropped his weapons and he was vulnerable to being attacked, and he was attacked and he died. And anyway, it goes on and on. Part of that is Drona, along with Grandfather Bhishma, stood there and said nothing while Draupadi was being insulted in a horrific way in a public assembly. And he remained silent. He used to be punished. And he got his punishment. And who's going to make that decision? Krishna made that decision. Supreme Court. Appeal that one, go ahead. So, Ram has made a decision to say what he said. We don't have that kind of skill, acumen, or privilege, or prerogative, or power, but Ram does. And exalted personalities like Kuresha, approved by Ramanujacharya and Sanatana Goswami and Raghunath Das Goswami, have that privilege. Such qualified persons can discern when it's appropriate to apply this principle, the higher cause principle. So now let's go into the next section where the three, Lakshman and Sita and Ram, leave the palace of Sita, because that was the last place that they went, and they're walking to the palace of Dasarath to say the final departure message and get his blessing, and off they go. Bad news travels fast. The whole of Ayodhya very quickly came to know this unbelievable turn of events. In the morning was to be a coronation, instead in the morning is exile, or go to the forest for 14 years, banishment for 14 years. And Lakshman and Sita are going too. The word that's used, I counted in the, because remember the Valmiki Ramayana is in song, and it's sung with a certain meter and with a certain number of syllables in each line. And so the word sorrow, as the translation into English, is there at least 8 times in this little section. So please remember from this morning. And so hearing it hurts to hear it, but please remember what we heard this morning. It's a stimulation for ecstatic love. In a way that, maybe we want to go there, or it even hurts to hear it, or it hurts to say it. But it helps to understand the deeper mystery of Ramayana and why these things are going on. It brings for each person a deeper focus to Ram and to what he stood for, the emblem of virtue, the emblem of righteousness, the emblem of nobility, and a perfect hero. So, they're moving along the streets of Ayodhya. The place is completely crowded. The rapid spread of the terrible news triggered mass devastation and sorrow. And then comes the symptoms. The ladies looked like lilies where the stems had been broken. Their hair loose, ornaments scattered. Innocent children started crying loudly, not even knowing why. Birds, flowers, animals, they all were grieving loudly. No one ever heard such a cacophony of sound like this. Kitchen stoves went out, no sacrifices were being offered. Singers, because as you heard the first day, Ayodhya was like a festival every day. Singers weren't singing or smiling, and dancers weren't dancing, and Ayodhya came to a grinding, sorrow-filled standstill. And then, multiplied 100-fold, is seeing Ram and Lakshmana walking instead of going in a royal chariot. No white umbrella, because they were expecting coronation, which means the white umbrella, the signification of the sign of royalty, the king. They were sad. The sadness increased 100 times. The sadness went over the top when they saw Sita walking with them, because it was known that Sita was never seen in a public place. She always went in some private conveyance. That was the culture. No one ever saw her. But now everyone was seeing her walking with Ram and Lakshmana. The place erupted with sorrow. The language is the horror of suffering! Exclamation point. Ayodhya realized it's not just talk, they're leaving. So then 3 make their way to Dasarath's palace. Some persons were saying, horrible. Another person said, injustice. Another person said, let the forest where Ram is going become a city, and let this city be abandoned by all of us and become a forest. When we move to the forest, out of fear of us, the snakes and animals will abandon the forest. They'll come to Ayodhya. Let Kaikeyi and her sons and relatives rule Ayodhya, which will become a forest. We'll be happy residing in the forest with Ram. Hundreds of persons heard this person speaking this loudly, and they said, yes. Just the poetry. Ram swam through Ayodhya's sea of sorrow to enter Dasarath's island of misery. There's poetry for you. They came to Dasarath's palace. Sumantra was there to greet them. Dutiful Sumantra, dear associate of Dasarath, palms folded, eyes red from crying and crying and crying, but he was doing his duty because he's dutiful. And Ram requested, please let Dasharatha know that we've come to see him. So he relayed the message. Dasharatha said, bring him in immediately. And Dasharatha also asked that all of his 352 other queens also come. Remember, he has 3 queens and another 350 extras. And all the ministers and all the brahmanas and Vishishta, Vamadev, he wanted everyone present. Ram enters, waiting for everybody to come, as was the plan of Dasharatha. Everyone came, Ram entered, and he started walking swiftly towards Dasharatha. Dasharatha got out of his seat and started running towards Ram. And he fell to the ground, unconscious. Ram and Lakshman pick him up, and the ladies in the assembly are wailing, except for one of them, Kaikeyi. Ram and Lakshman are both crying. They gain their composure, and then Ram makes his pronouncement. Please give us permission to go to the forest. Lakshman and Sita, I made my very best strenuous effort to persuade them to stay, but they overruled me. Please give your permission for them to come also. We wish to depart today. And Ram stood there in silence, waiting for Dasharatha's response. Dasharatha paused for some time and said, as a result of a promise that I made to Kaikeyi long ago, she's asked for her boons. Ram, I'm giving you an instruction. Put me in prison. Make me your captive and rule the kingdom. Disobey my promise to Kaikeyi. I made the promise, not you. It's not easy for Ram in these circumstances, but he's very determined. And he says, may you be the ruler for 1,000 years. I shall reside in the forest. I have no desire for the kingdom. Dasharatha's still holding on to hope, but his hope is dwindling very quickly. Finally, he then says, please leave with an undisturbed mind. May your journey be successful. But can you just stay one more day so that Kaushalya and I can see you before you leave? He then spoke very strongly and said, I swear to you that I had no idea of this plan. I was diverted from crowning you king by Kaikeyi. But it's no wonder, since you're my eldest son, that you wish to seek proving and upholding my veracity, upholding my word. You're so qualified. Ram's reply, again, please let me leave right away. Do not hesitate giving the kingdom to Bharat. Dasharatha was silent. He just embraced Ram and fainted on the ground again. Seeing Dasharatha on the ground again, Sumantra, who has been silent observer of this drama, flew into a rage. Scathingly, he spoke to Kaikeyi. Here lies your husband, the support of the whole world, betrayed and forsaken by you. Surely there's nothing sacred to you. I consider you to be a murderess of your husband and destroyer of the entire race. Since the time-honored rule of primogeniture, that is, the eldest son becomes king, you seek to usurp Ram's rights and bring unbearable pain to the king. If your son becomes king, there will be no pious men remaining in this kingdom. May you be happy with your son ruling an empty kingdom with all impious people. Samantra is, there's some appreciation, all these emotions. Samantra is for the entire duration of time that Dasratha has ruled, he's been his chief minister. He's his closest confidential associate in the ruling of the kingdom for 60,000 years. And there's the king on the floor, and his son is being banished. Sumantra speaks again very strongly. Your wicked tendency comes from your mother. Then he cites some history. Ashvapati, your father, received a benediction from a sage that he would be able to understand the language of all animals, birds, and all living things. But there was a condition. If you ever disclose that you have this capacity, what the animals or birds say, you'll instantly die. So one day, this is Sumantra speaking to Kaikeyi. One day, Ashvapati was lying and heard a bird singing by his window, and he could understand what the bird was saying, and he laughed. And your mother, his queen, thought that the king was laughing at her. So she insisted in asking, what is it that you're laughing? What's so funny? And Ashvapati said, if I were to tell you, I would instantly die. She said, never die, I don't care. I want to know why you're laughing. Ashvapati remained silent. He didn't give an answer one way or the other. He went and consulted his ministers, told the whole story, and asked for their advice. And their advice was banish her. And don't disclose even that you know you have this skill. Don't tell her that part. Just, she's wicked. Your wickedness comes from your mother. Don't follow the path of your mother. Follow the path of honoring the real intention of your good husband who is lying here on the floor and will die if what you want is fulfilled. Kaikeyi didn't reply. She was expressionless. She didn't show any, specifically it says, the color of her face didn't change. She was stone-hearted. Dasratha then turned to Sumantra and says, prepare my entire army, and gives all this, and cartloads of precious jewels and all kinds of riches and things that that Ram can use while he's in the forest, and on and on and on and on. Kaikeyi insults him. How can you give a kingdom to Bharata that's been stripped and has nothing left? How would he become the ruler as you promised? Dasara, little back and forth. Dasara says, "You wicked, vulgar woman. You've extracted from me the promise that Bharata would be king, and as I'm executing the instruction, you're lashing me. I cannot stay here any longer. I am leaving with Ram." Kaikeyi said, "In your ancestry there was King Sagara, and he banished his son, Asamanjasa. Why can't you act like your predecessor ancestors?" And one of the ministers, if you remember the first day we listed the 8 ministers, and one of them was Siddhartha. I mentioned this at that time, we'll say it again. Siddhartha stood up and challenged her. He said, "Asamanjasa was cast into the forest because of his wickedness. Although he was the eldest son and dutifully to become the king, that he had this awful behavior of finding children in the street, taking to the river Sarayva, throwing in the river and drowning and laughing, and he'd do it again and again and again. It was for that reason that he was banished and sent to the forest. You please tell us, Kaikeyi, what comparable sin has Ram done? Be very clear, be very explicit. What is the wrong that Ram has done that makes it equal that he should be banished?" Like Asamanjasa. Everyone goes, "Yeah." But Ram stopped that mood and said, "I resolve to enter the forest and live as an ascetic. Please give the full kingdom to Bharat, not one that's been depleted of its resources. I will only take my weapons and a shovel for digging roots in the ground." And everyone went, "Oh no." Then he turns to Sumantra and says, "Can you please make arrangement for bark garments for the 3 of us?" Shamelessly, Kaikeyi already had them prepared. Hands them to the 3 of them. Ram and Lakshman start wearing them, and Sita can't manage. She never wore anything like a 3-bark garment before. So Ram helps her. Over her sari, he ties the shoulder, so it's hanging over her sari. Vashishta, he steps forward, seeing this. This cannot be. Oh, evil-minded Kaikeyi. If Sita accompanies Ram to the forest, all of us here in the palace, the city, and the whole nation will leave to the forest, bringing with them all their wealth and necessities. In other words, if you do this, Dasarath doesn't have to say it. All the people are going to do it anyway. The boon that you asked for was that Ram should go to the forest, not Sita. Sita should be treated with dignity. She's son of Janaka, or daughter of Janaka, noble person. She should be given maidservants and proper garments and ornaments and all paraphernalia. Sita said, "No, I want to enter the forest in the same manner as my husband." She declined. Vashishta left. very angry. And many people in the assembly just fainted. Dasarath said the same thing that Vasishtha, my guru, said it, and he's right. Kaikeyi, you must want to go to hell because you want to surpass Vasishtha, our guru, and see Sita dressed in bark garments. Changing the flow of the conversation, Ram speaks to Dasarath and says, my dear mother Kaushalya had never experienced sorrow like this, sorrow. So in my absence, her sorrow, unknown to her before, sorrow will engulf her. Please take special care to attend to her needs. Dasarath asks a mantra to get a special chariot ready, his best chariot in the whole kingdom, so that they can now depart. Sita, being skilled as she is in social matters, understands, I don't want to take a superior position to my husband, but Dasarath would be pleased. The right thing to do is to please Dasarath in the midst of all of this grief. So she changed her position and agreed to accept not opulent attire, but modest attire instead of tree bark garments. So Dasarath made those arrangements. Chariot is being made ready. Kaushalya speaks to Sita, basically saying, a noble woman married to her husband, when the husband meets a situation of misfortune, she never detests him. An ignoble woman, she'll leave her husband, be insulting, be very rude. She says, such a woman is very difficult to deal with and brings ruination to her and her whole family. Please don't make that mistake. Not that she's worried Sita will do. Sita said, I've been trained by my father in the royal family, the duties of a wife. I understand very clearly, and there's no possibility that my mind will go there and be detestful to the circumstance that my husband is now in. And then, knowing the mood of her husband, Ram, she says the same thing. Do not look upon Kaikeyi disparagingly. 14 years will pass quickly and we'll come back. Everything will be nice. Now, one thing that didn't happen yet is Lakshmana hasn't got permission from his mother or his wife. So that little section comes. And with his mother, he's anticipating grief. But he gets something very different. He gets smiles. And Sumitra's wonderful. I mean, they're all wonderful, except Kaikeyi. Sumitra says, when the celestial payasam was taken by me, my thoughts were going to exactly what is happening now. I wanted as a son, one who would be the example of servitude. You are born to rule the kingdom of service, Lakshmana, and no one can ever dethrone you from that kingdom. Rule happily the kingdom of service. And your subjects are your senses, your desires, and your mind. She goes on. Because you are so attached to your dear brother Ram, I give you permission to accompany him in exile. Don't ever neglect service to your brother. He alone is your refuge. Consider Ram to be your father Dasarath, Sita to be me, and the forest to be Ayodhya. Now depart happily. And then she begins crying. The emotion that she's feeling, she's happy that he's taking this noble position of being in the service to Ram, and she knows she's going to feel separation from him, and she begins crying and crying. Lakshman comforts her, her sobbing ends, and immediately Lakshman runs from the room. He's gotten the blessing. And shortly we're going to narrate what happens when he goes to see his wife and get her permission. It's also very astounding, very astounding. So now they're back with Dasarath, and each one of the three, they touch his feet, they circumambulate respectfully, slowly and respectfully. Ram bows before Kaushalya, and he gets on the chariot. This is now not in the chambers, the chariot is ready and off they go. Sumantra looks at the chariot and doesn't want to get on the chariot. He doesn't want to have anything to do with the chariot. He's feeling fear, he's feeling the stigma of being the one that's taking, like Akrura, taking Krishna from Vrindavan. But he's very beautiful. So finally he gets on. They have three things that they are placing on the chariot, along with situating the three of them. They have Sita's garments. They have Ram and Lakshman's weapons. And they have a basket and a shovel. Sumantra takes the reins, and the chariot starts moving. And then there's this very beautiful depiction of sorrow in different ways. The people along the side of the chariot are calling out to Sumantra, drive slowly. We want to see Ram. Dasarath continues to follow the chariot and says, I want to see my son Ram one more time. Ram says, drive quickly. The people say, stop. The road is moistened by the tears of the people. Floods of tears. Ram keeps looking back to see his father. And his father is totally dejected and bewildered. And his mother, Kaushalya, is calling out, and he can hear, Ram, Ram, Sita, Lakshman. It's not like, Bachan, she's calling out tearfully, shedding tears. Dasarath shouts, stop! Ram says, go quickly. And if the king chastises you for not obeying him, tell him you didn't hear him because of the noise of the crowd. And he gives a reason. Prolonging agony of my departure will be disastrous for my parents. That's the higher cause. It's the well-being of his mother and father, knowing with their well-being really is. So Samantra urges the horses to go forward and go faster. The ministers then tell Dasarath, it's inappropriate culture-wise. It is appropriate that you follow someone who's departing for some distance, but it's inappropriate that you continue to follow them. You have to let them go. You have to come back to the palace. Ministers are advising the king. So he stopped, perspiring, filled with tears, gazing at the chariot leaving his visual sight. When he could no longer see the chariot or the dust of the chariot, he fell to the ground. Kaushalya caught one of his arms. Kaikeyi trying to lift him with one of his other arms, and Dasarath smashed her. Oh, Kaikeyi of sinful resolve, don't touch me. I do not even want to see you. You are neither my wife nor my relation. I have no longer anything to do with you or your dependents, nor do they have any relationship whatsoever with me. I disown you. We're dedicated only to your own selfish ends. If Bharata is pleased to accept this kingdom without any encumbrance, his funeral offerings to me shall not be accepted. So Kaikeyi alone helps Dasarath come to his feet, enter into the palace. He requests to be taken to Kaushalya's chambers, and at midnight Dasarath says, Kaushalya, I've lost my vision. I cannot see you. Please, just touch me with your hand. Since my eyesight followed after Ram, it hasn't returned. Very sad, very sorrow-filled situation. The glorious Sumitra comes. She's feeling grief, but she's trying to take the role of the younger sister, comforting the elder sister in the loss of her son. I mean, her son is also gone, but she's taking that role. Speaking of the greatness of Ram and Lakshman, placing her arms around Kaushalya, she spoke about Ram and his wonderful qualities and immeasurable strength, reassuring Kaushalya, don't worry, all these celestial weapons that Vishwamitra gave to Ram, surely he will be protected, he'll be safe. Trying to comfort her, embracing her strongly. And for a long time the co-queens sat together, immersed in thought of Ram. Meanwhile, Dasarath's over there, just moaning, saying the only thing he can say is Ram's name. So the king was told by the ministers he must go back, but the citizens didn't have the same cultural requirements, so they continued to follow the chariot. Ram stops the chariot and gives them an instruction which they can't follow. He says, the love that you have for me is immeasurable. And the way that you can show your love for me is two things. He gives them two things. The king should not suffer. please comfort the king. And the next thing is repose all the love and affection you have for me, repose it in Bharat, because he's going to be your ruler. And the more he spoke about Bharat, the more they felt affection for him. They kept following. And then different voices, the elder Brahmins, they couldn't move as fast as the chariot was moving. So they requested, Ram, slow down. We can't keep up. So Ram stopped the chariot, got off the chariot, and walked slowly as fast as they could walk. So now they know that they can hear him, or he can hear them. And they say, and he doesn't even respond. The whole Brahmana community is following you, devoted to you, as you are devoted to the Brahmanas. There's another voice of, don't go. If you ignore righteousness by rejecting our request, who will bother honoring the path of righteousness? We're imploring you, please don't go. He's silent, he's looking forward, intent on his purpose. They're all thinking, is there anyone that could stop him from going to the forest? They reach the river Tamasa, just like a block. So the chariot stops, the horses are given water, they're given grass by Sumantra. Ram makes a plan where they would rest for the evening. The citizens rest some distance from where Ram and Sita are taking rest. Sumantra and Lakshman make a bed of straw and grass for Ram and Lakshman to lie down on. And it gives them great grief to see them lying in the ground, just straw and grass between them and the ground. And the two, Sumantra and Lakshman, stay up discussing. He describes what happens to Sumantra, what happened when he went to his wife, Urmila. I never read this before, but it's so nice. So Urmila had different qualities. She was very beautiful, and she liked painting. She just could sit for hours and hours and paint. So she was meditating. This is Lakshman describing this to Sumantra. She was meditating on the coronation of Sita and Ram. So she made an exquisite, detailed painting, beautiful painting of the coronation of Sita and Ram. And just as she was finishing a bowl of paint, she heard some noise. It startled her, and the bowl of paint splattered on the painting, ruined the painting. Mind was disturbed. She stood up to see what that noise was. And with her husband just come in the room. And she showed her husband, look what just happened, this painting of the coronation of Sita and Ram. I was going to give it to him as a wedding gift. I mean, not a wedding gift, a coronation gift. Lakshman said, you can paint it again in 14 years from now. Ram has been exiled to the forest for 14 years, and Bharata will be king instead. Urmila, what? How how could this happen? He doesn't give the how did it happen story. He said, in time you'll understand everything. What you need to understand now is the delicate Sita will accompany Ram to the forest, and to serve them both, I must go also. Ramla paused. Very quickly she gathered herself. There's this awkward silence for some time. And then she spoke beautiful words. Opportunities to serve superiors come unsought to one who yearns for them. Your life, you're my husband, your life is dedication and service to Ram. My life is service to you. If, like Sita, I were to request, let me go with you, then that would be disturbance to your service to Ram. I mean, I can sit over here and paint paintings all day, and you're with Ram, and I'm fine, and you're fine, and I'm not disturbing your service. If we'll go to the forest together, you'll have to attend to so many things, and that'll be disturbance to your service to Ram. So though it's my duty as a wife to be with you and serve you, my service is best to give my full encouragement to you. You go and serve Ram. If I insist that I do my duty by accompanying you, you will be displeased, because the object of your duty, Ram, will be displeased with your negligence. So my duty now is to facilitate the perfection you can attain in your responsibility by my staying here in Ayodhya. You are sacrificing your comforts, your wife, your wealth, your opinion. Following your example, I'm sacrificing my desires and my duties. The real duty of a wife is to understand the mood of her husband. Sumantra, hearing this, starts to cry. With her sacrifice, Urmila had captured Sumantra's heart forever. Lakshman was overcome with emotion. He just couldn't speak anymore. He stood up and walked away. Sumantra said, "What kind of family is this? Everyone tries to forget himself or herself and focus on what pleases the other. But amid such illustrious people, how could a mind such as Kaikeyi's exist?" This is too strange. And Lakshman is just reflecting aloud, how fortunate to have a mother and a wife as I have. I'm serving directly, but these two have the pleasure and privilege of serving Ram through their attitude. So there's commentary on that says service is one thing and attitude is more important than the service. This doesn't mean just have a nice attitude and don't do service. But attitude will determine your service. And in the case of his mother, in the case of his wife, that was the pleasure goes to Ram. And whatever is the pleasure of Ram, that's what they want. And their husband or their son have that special relationship with Ram, they can't get in that position, his mother or his wife, do all these things for Ram. They can't do that. He can do that. So their attitude of service is so outstanding. Service and separation, as we say in ISKCON sometimes. That was like a very prominent thing. Just share this during the early days of the Hare Krishna movement, that there were these selected few that had the opportunity to serve Prabhupada directly, and the rest of us was service and separation. And there wasn't enmity or envy or jealousy or, how come I don't get to do that? It's just the position of service. It's a perfectly satisfying and appropriate position of service. Now, some people, they can't serve in that mood. Lakshman was one, couldn't serve in that mood. Bharata was one, he could serve in, as long as it's the interest of Ram. That's all. And now we're hearing, it's a different relationship, a wife and a mother. The wife wants the husband present, and mother wants the son present, and that's perfectly natural. But they have that mood also. It's a very noble quality. We're almost done. So they're taking rest. Sumantra and Lakshman staying up all night. Lakshman saying, how can I sleep when I see Ram and Sita lying on the ground? How can I sleep? So before the sun rises, Ram gets up and starts executing the plan. He tells Lakshman and Sumantra, hitch the horse to the chariot, and tells Sumantra, take us across Tamasa, this shallow area, and they get out of the chariot. Then you go back to the other side and go here and there in different places along sometimes in the water, and sometimes where there's no path, and make it so that the residents of Ayodhya won't know where you are. And then once you've accomplished that, you come back on the other side of the Tamasa and will continue. So the purpose of it is to trick, deceive the residents of Ayodhya, so they'll go back to Ayodhya. They don't want the residents of Ayodhya. It doesn't fulfill the purpose of solitary forest life, which was what he's taking was the intention of his father. So Sumantra obliges very expertly that plan of Ram, and he navigates the chariot in such a way when the citizens of Ayodhya wake up, they don't see the chariot, they don't see Ram, Lakshman, and Sita and Sumantra. They search here and there. The only thing they know that's left for them to do is follow the path that the chariot from its travel the previous day on their way back to Ayodhya, and they're very, very sad. When they get back to Ayodhya, they're so dazed they don't even know where their house is. Some of them enter into the wrong house. Everything appears vacant. And all the blame goes to Kaikeyi. This kingdom will be ruined. Dasrath will soon meet his end. The celebrated city became silent. the sounds of singing, rejoicing, and instrumental music ceased. People remained in their homes in great sorrow, thinking only of Ram. So it's painful in one sense to hear all this. One of the reasons why sharing that description from Nectar Devotion and Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is so important, because it's very, very sad. But somehow at least we should understand its impetus for increased attentiveness upon Ram. Yes, in a sad way, but in fact Ram does return, and then it's joyous. Dwelling. Ram becomes king, and Ram rules the kingdom 11,000 years. Bharata's been doing his duty in his relationship with Ram and continues to assist Ram. This is Ram's pastimes. What can we do? We can't re-script it. It's just, it is what it is. So tomorrow we'll go to Chitrakoot and we'll hear of the events a little bit leading up to his reaching Chitrakoot. Ram, Lakshman, and Sita. Sumantra is going to be sent back, much to his dismay. All of these meetings and separation things again and again. It's ecstatic.